Escobar, a ruthless killer, escaped from his own luxury prison when authorities tried to transfer him to another jail.
The killing of Colombian drug lord Pablo Escobar is sending a tougher message.
No one expects the death of Colombian drug lord Pablo Escobar to put much of a dent in the world cocaine trade.
Aplastaremos los títeres y los muñecos políticos de Franco que fabrican la oligarquía colombiana.
On the 1st of December, 1949, in the highlands of Antioquia, a place where the morning mist always woke before anyone else, a child was born whose mother had chosen his name 3 months earlier, Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria. He was the family's third child. His father was a farmer and his mother a teacher. Their financial situation was unstable, neither rich nor poor. The only constant in that house was a complete lack of peace. Not many years passed before the family moved to the southern part of Antioquia, to Envigado, a region seemingly calmer than Medellin, but in essence, a city shaped by the very reality Colombia lived in those days: political violence, inequality, and a future shrouded in uncertainty for its people. Pablo grew up on these very streets. He attended school where teachers said he was intelligent but unruly. His mother constantly encouraged him to study, but Pablo dropped out midway through his education. It didn't take long for the chaos of the classroom to spill out into the city. Pablo walked away from the school desk and toward what many of his peers were choosing at the time: shortcuts. To Pablo, these shortcuts were simply business. His first money came from jobs no one liked to talk about, like stealing old, valuable headstones and reselling them, car theft, petty drug dealing in the neighborhoods, and document forgery. He learned that the world outside, unlike home, had no laws unless you wrote them yourself. He saw his success on the roads that led to America and Europe. By the mid-1970s, as global demand for cocaine surged, Escobar entered the market with raw audacity. One day, while Pablo was driving with 39 kilograms of cocaine, he heard the clang of the law for the first time. Colombia's DAS police arrested him and confiscated the 39 kilograms of cocaine and his car. Two days later, by a judge's order, Pablo was released. He understood that this was just the beginning. A few days after the seizure, and just before the court date, all 39 kilograms of cocaine vanished from the police evidence room. Without physical evidence, the prosecutors had no case. No established lawyer would take his file, fearing the severe consequences of a cocaine case. Pablo was forced to hire a novice lawyer named Gustavo Gaviria, who later became one of his closest associates. By 1975, the American market was thirsty for a substance still unknown to many: cocaine, a product that until then had limited use in wealthy circles. But with soaring demand, its price skyrocketed, creating a simple equation: high risk, enormous profit. Pablo Escobar, already involved in smuggling, recognized the potential of this market sooner than anyone else. He wasn't just looking to meet demand. He wanted complete control of the supply chain, from buying coca leaves from farmers in Peru and Bolivia to running processing labs in the jungles of Colombia. This ambition laid the foundations for the first integrated drug cartel. Escobar and his partners understood that the key to monopoly was controlling air transport. They assembled a fleet of small and medium aircraft, mainly Cessna 401s, 402s, and Piper Aztecs, planes capable of flying at low altitudes to avoid radar, landing on short dirt strips in remote areas, and carrying 300 to 500 kilograms of cargo. Pilots followed a specific air route, first north over the Caribbean Sea, then descending sharply to reach the airspace of small countries like the Bahamas, which had minimal surveillance. The plane would approach the Florida coast and drop its cargo in a predetermined zone at sea. Speedboats waiting below would retrieve the packages. This method reduced the risk of landing and capture. This operation became a full-scale economic engine. Reports from the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, indicate that in the early 1980s, roughly 70 to 80% of cocaine entering the United States was transporting through this illegal aerial network. The profit from a single successful flight was dozens of times the cost of the plane and pilot, about $420 million in cash per week. This volume of cash made management and concealment a massive problem. Pablo hid much of it in farms, abandoned warehouses, or even within the walls of cartel members' houses. His accountant and brother stated that around 10% of this money, equivalent to billions of dollars, was lost to rats or water damage. To gain popularity and earn the nickname Robin Hood among Colombians, Pablo built cheap houses, soccer fields, hospitals, and churches in the poor neighborhoods of Medellin. In 1982, Pablo tried to leverage his wealth into political power to enter the Colombian Congress, but it didn't take long for him to draw the intense scrutiny of the authorities. When Justice Minister Rodrigo Lara Bonilla exposed his smuggling operations, Escobar ordered his assassination. This murder marked the official start of the bloody war between the Medellin cartel and the Colombian state. The conflict became open and official in 1984 with the signing of an extradition treaty between Colombia and the United States. This treaty allowed drug traffickers to be sent to America for trial, where escape or judicial corruption was nearly impossible. This was the greatest threat to Escobar. He declared, "I prefer a grave in Colombia to a jail cell in the United States." The Medellin cartel's response was all-out war against the state apparatus. Terror attacks, bombings in public places, targeting police and judges, and anyone opposing the cartel. Pablo recruited a new team of professional motorcycle assassins called sicarios to strike all government institutions. Of course, before ordering a hit, he used his famous method, plata o plomo, silver or lead, offer a bribe to officials, and if refused, order their murder. To enforce his demands on the government, Escobar turned to kidnapping the elite. In 1990, he abducted members of powerful families and senior politicians, including the daughter of a former president and a member of the Santos family. This tactic worked, finally pressuring the government into accepting a custom surrender deal in 1991. The government agreed not to extradite him to America on the condition that he be imprisoned in Colombia. In June 1991, Escobar went to prison, but unlike a normal inmate, he chose the location, design, and conditions himself, a prison atop the hills surrounding Medellin. According to sources and eyewitnesses, the facilities were as follows. The outer walls were guarded by the Colombian army, but full control inside the prison, including weapons and communications, was in the hands of Escobar's personal guards. His main suite included a king-size bed, jacuzzi, home theater system, and fireplace. A professional gym, bar, soccer field, disco club, and an artificial waterfall were built on the premises. He could easily host family, friends, business associates, and even famous models and singers. Parties at La Catedral became legendary. In December 1991, the Colombian government decided to transfer Pablo to a real military prison. The reason was clear. Escobar realized he could no longer hide behind high walls. Extradition to America, his perpetual nightmare, had now become an immediate threat. He gave his men a single order: "We are leaving this place." This time, the Colombian government learned from all its past experiences. a special unit called the Search Block was formed, composed of the best police officers, army personnel, and advisors from the CIA. Their strategy was no longer arrest, it was physical elimination. Escobar was forced to stay in hiding, moving between safe apartments, loyal associates, homes, and rural areas. His greatest weapon was the fear and loyalty of Medellin's poor, who acted as his eyes and ears. But even this network was starting to crack. The pressure from the Search Block was relentless, and a huge reward was placed on information about him. His rivals, the Cali cartel and Los Peps, cooperated with the government, revealing his communication channels and old hideouts. One by one, members of his inner circle were captured or killed. Escobar, who once had a private telecommunications network, was now forced to use public and cell phones to contact his family. These emotional connections became his fatal weakness. It was around 2 in the afternoon. Special forces surrounded a relatively simple apartment in the Los Olivos neighborhood of Medellin. They were no longer waiting to negotiate. When Escobar heard footsteps on the roof, he knew time was up. According to official reports, he resisted with his weapon. In the shootout that followed, Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria was killed by several bullets to his head and torso, on the very rooftop he had hoped to escape from. The empire that began with the theft of a tombstone crumbled in a middle-class neighborhood of Medellin. Not heroic, not dramatic, but in the form of a dry, calculated police operation. His death marked the end of a myth that had grown from poverty, violence, and global greed.